Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Jupiter sextile or trine one's natal Neptune. Now, this transit may manifest in optimism, enthusiasm, exuberance, truth, joviality, luck, being in harmony with dreams and fantasies. Now, I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. This is a time where it can be about a lot of optimism and enthusiasm in attaining dreams and fantasies. The Neptune is in Sagittarius. It might be something with sports or religion or philosophy. Could even be something with publishing, advertising, or even printing press operations, some examples. Now, it's also a time where it can be more fortuitous because Jupiter is the planet of luck and fortune. It could be more about being lucky and attaining what you want as far as your dreams go, your fantasies that you want to attain. And I would say too, this is also a time about being optimistic in attaining them, but not to the point where you're over enthusiastic or over optimistic at this time. So it's a very good transit. You have Jupiter connected with optimism. Neptune is about inspiration and hope. So it is a very positive transit. It can also be about really having the exuberance and the optimism and attaining ideals as well. If you have your natal, say it's your natal Neptune is in Capricorn in the fourth house as an example. It could be about your ideals might be having structure and discipline in your home and family life. And it's also a time when you have this transit. It's really about expressing joviality. It could be with those that are less fortunate than yourself. If you're somebody, if any isolated case that you're somebody that ministers to prison workers, it could be a very auspicious time for that, where your message is not only being conveyed, but it's also being heard loud and clear. Basically, it's a time too about understanding, seeing the truth in what your dreams and fantasies are. Are they realistic? Are they not? I mean, the positive thing about seeing something, seeing the truth in what's not realistic, you could stop pursuing that unrealistic dream and then go on to something that you think is more practical, or you have better opportunity to actually attain something that's more realistic. Um, it could also be a time in being very optimistic and inspired to do things just in general at this time, and really having uh, you know really having that enthusiasm to do things that really inspire you. And it's a time as well, I mean, anatomically speaking. Okay, Neptune is connected with the feet, the toes, the pineal gland, and the lymphatic and immune system. And it's a time when you have this transit. If you've had any of those issues that I described that are anatomically associated with Neptune, it's a time for really seeing the truth in them, or it's a time where you might simply feel more optimistic and upbeat regarding those issues. It could be receiving good news about them if you've had surgery on anything associated with it, or if you're in the process of having surgery and you have this transit. This is a time where it'd be more apt to be positive in terms of the outcome and end results of it. Now, it may also be a time as well, when you have this transit. It's also a time where doing things that are Jupiter related, whether it's something with sports or religion or philosophy, it's things that you may simply have more inspiration for doing at this time, more so than usual. And if anything, in your life is nebulous or unclear, this is the time where you might be able to reveal again the truth about it. And it's about saying, what is, if there's something deceptive, it is a time where it could be more auspicious than usual to be able to see the veracity and the truth in that at this time. If you're dealing, say if you have your natal Neptune in 10th house as an example, it could be a deceptive or duplicitous. It's an authority figure, an older person, or even the dominant parent, which is often the father. Uh, this could also be what time as well. I mean, that it's really dealing with isolation. It can be a time where it may actually be auspicious for doing things in isolation, I should say. If you're trying to do something in solitude and seclusion, you're trying to put your full focus on something, or if you just want to meditate or relax or even sleep, it may be more of a positive time in order to do so. You're talking about a good relationship of the planet Jupiter, which is associated with luck, and Neptune, which is about relaxation, it's lethargy, it's sleep, meditation. Those are the things. It could be more positive for doing that, just in general, at this point in time. And really, it's a time too where you might even be interested in taking a long distance voyage by sea at this time. It could be very positive for doing that, and also just really about prosperity in Neptune-related fields, whether it's the metaphysical, which includes astrology or dancing or poetry or photography, chemistry, even doing something connected with fantasy, whether it's if you have your natal Neptune in the 5th house, it could be the production of fantasy games, as an example. It could be a very auspicious time for that. And also, the thing is, Neptune is associated with imprisonment and incarceration. So it's a time, if you're dealing with somebody, that is in prison, that is incarcerated, maybe it's a time where you're able to be, you can go to philosophize with this person and they can listen to what you have to say. And if it's something religious, or you're trying to, preach to them, positively about what they can do, giving them hope. Though this is the time where it can be more propitious for doing so, more so than it ordinarily would. And Neptune is also connected with dissipation and dissolving things. So if it's a time when you're trying to dissolve something, say, um, you know, if it's in the 7th house, it could be a marriage partner, it could be some situation, with a legal situation, um, something with an open adversary is another example. It's a time where it could be more auspicious for doing that at this time than it ordinarily would. And again, I mean, Neptune is connected to isolation and escapism, so it could be a very positive time for being able to do things. If not, I don't mean escapism in a negative way. I mean in a way where you just feel you need time, whether it's recharging the emotional battery. It could just be a time where you just need to be by yourself. If you're dealing with some personal problems or dilemmas, this is a time where it could be positive for doing so. And it's also can be a time that could be lucky and fortuitous if you're dealing with confusion. You know, it might be the natal Neptune is in the 7th house. It could be regarding a legal matter, as an example, or somebody might be having trouble deciphering the motives and intentions of a person that you may be involved in a relationship with. This is the time where it could be lucky for actually figuring out what's actually going on with this person, as an example. Now, another way this transit may manifest, it could be about having the enthusiasm, which is Jupiter, just about attaining your dreams at this time, and fantasies, which is Neptune. Let's say, for example, if the natal Neptune is in Sagittarius in the 10th house, it could be doing something with sports or publishing or advertising or printing press operation, which is Sagittarius, as a career, which is the 10th house. And it's also a time about getting the truth, which is Jupiter, about a person that may be in a less fortunate situation, which is Neptune. Now, if Neptune is in Capricorn, as an example, it could be somebody that's depressive or overly callous or even undemonstrative. Um, And it can also be a time where you might be more readily able to express humor, which is Jupiter, and in isolation, which is Neptune. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, now it's also, let's say for example, if the transit Jupiter is in Gemini, it could be, really humor that could be, very, you could say, done in a very vivacious manner. It might involve mimicry. It could be just something very witty, witticisms. And it's also a time for prosperity, which is Jupiter, and what you have inspiration, which is Neptune, for. Let's say, for example, if the natal Neptune is in Aquarius in the sixth house, it could be doing something with computer or astrology, which is Aquarius. It could be a form of a service, which is the sixth house. And it could also be a time where it'd be very propitious for sports, which is Jupiter. And as a means of escape just from your everyday problems, Neptune is about escape. If transit Jupiter is in Pisces, as an example, it could be through swimming or scuba diving or fishing, as an example, as some examples, I should say. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.